We're beginning to read The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. This is an example of the mock epic, or the mock heroic. In fact, Pope himself called this a heroic-comical poem. So I want to take a little bit of time talking about the genre of the mock epic, or the mock heroic. The mock epic is a poem employing the lofty style and the conventions of epic poetry to describe a trivial or undignified series of events, thus a kind of satire that mocks its subject by treating it in an inappropriately grandiose manner, usually at some length. Mock epics incidentally make fun of the elaborate conventions of epic poetry, including invocations, battles, supernatural machinery, epic similes, and formulaic descriptions. The outstanding examples in English are Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock, which we're reading, and The Dunciad, which we're not, while Boileau's Le Lutrin, which we're also not reading, is an important French example. Now, even though we're not reading Boileau, I think it's important to note a distinction that he drew between the mock epic and the burlesque. The mock epic takes low or trivial matters and treats them in a serious epic fashion. It glorifies the trivial. Now, the burlesque was kind of in opposition to the mock epic. The burlesque took a subject that was considered serious and important, highbrow, and made it low. This was a way of debunking myths. If you've ever watched Saturday Night Live skits that make fun of the president and the members of his cabinet, the inhabitants and officials of the White House, well, that's burlesque. It's taking something that should be considered serious and important and treating it as though it were frivolous or silly. Pope's The Rape of the Lock is an example of mock heroic, or the mock epic, because it takes the supposedly low and trivial matter of Belinda having a lock of her hair clipped without her permission, and it treats it in a serious epic fashion, replete with a battle of the sexes and all kinds of epic tropes, including supernatural machinery and an invocation to the muse. Now, in order to help you understand how the mock heroic works at kind of a micro level, at the level of the line or at the level of language in The Rape of the Lock, I want to point to a rhetorical device that Pope utilizes over and over in The Rape of the Lock, and that is his reliance on the device of zeugma. Dictionary.com defines zeugma this way: the use of a word to modify or govern two or more words when it is appropriate to only one of them, or is appropriate to each but in a different way. The example I like that they give here is, on his fishing trip, he caught 3 trout and a cold. Zeugma actually means to yoke, Y-O-K-E. Here's a picture of 2 beasts of burden that are yoked together, a single device that is keeping them side by side. In the example from dictionary.com that I just read, on his fishing trip, he caught 3 trout and a cold. The verb here is caught, and what caught relates to is 3 trout and also a cold. But of course you catch 3 trout very differently than the way you catch a cold, and this is what makes zeugma effective and humorous. To understand how zeugma is functioning in The Rape of the Lock, go to Canto 2 and turn to the verse paragraph that begins, "This day black omens threat the brightest fair." That's line 103. Now, look at these 2 lines, lines 109 and 111, and here are examples of zeugma. Line 109 reads, "or stain her honor, or her new brocade." Line 111 reads, "or lose her heart, or necklace at a ball." What's humorous about these lines, or the way that Pope is able to satirize Belinda and the society in which she lives, is that staining one's honor is not the same as staining one's brocade or the fabric of one's clothing, and losing one's heart is not the same or the equivalent to losing a necklace at a ball. This is how Pope can make fun of or satirize the materialistic and superficial culture of the early 18th century.